In April of 1945, at a German prisoner processing facility outside Frankfurt, the war was nearing its end. Germany was falling apart. Every day, thousands of German troops laid down their arms and surrendered. General Patton was conducting an inspection of the processing area. Long lines of German captives stood waiting. American personnel searched them, collected weapons, and documented identities. Everything appeared routine. Then something caught Patton's attention and stopped him in his tracks. Among the prisoners stood a member of the SS. Around the man's neck hung a chain that reflected the sunlight. It was not a single identification tag. It was not two. There were dozens. Patton moved closer. The SS soldier wore a necklace assembled entirely from American dog tags linked together on a chain. Patton counted them. 50. 50 American identification tags. 50 names. 50 soldiers. 50 families who would never welcome their sons home again. The German had kept them as trophies, displaying them proudly as though they were hunting prizes. Patton studied the prisoner's face. There was no remorse, no embarrassment, only a cold and emotionless stare. The processing center was under the supervision of Captain James Mitchell. Mitchell was from Ohio and was 32 years old. For 3 months, he had overseen the intake of German prisoners. During that time, he had witnessed many different kinds of men. Some German soldiers were relieved the conflict had ended. Others were teenagers pushed into combat. Some were elderly men who never should have worn uniforms. He had also encountered SS personnel, men who had remained devoted to the cause and resisted until surrender became unavoidable. But he had never seen anything like this. Patton called him over and pointed toward the prisoner wearing the necklace. Mitchell looked. His stomach tightened. Every tag carried a name, an American name, a service number, a blood type, a religious designation. "Captain," Patton said softly, too softly, "how long has this prisoner been here?" "About 10 minutes, sir. He just arrived." "And no one noticed the necklace?" Mitchell glanced toward his processing staff, 2 corporals, young men. They had concentrated on weapons and paperwork. They had not noticed what hung around the prisoner's neck. "Sir, we did not see it." Patton slowly nodded. "Get Lieutenant Harper and find someone who speaks German." Mitchell moved immediately. Within 2 minutes, he returned with Lieutenant William Harper, the camp intelligence officer, and Private Anton Weber, a German-American translator. Patton had not moved. He remained directly in front of the SS prisoner, focused on the necklace. The German returned the stare. No fear, no apology. Harper and Weber arrived and saw the chain. Harper's face lost its color. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. Patton turned to Weber. "Ask him his name." Weber spoke in German. The prisoner responded. "He says his name is Klaus Richter, sir. SS Hauptsturmführer. Captain rank. Waffen-SS, 12th Panzer Division. Ask him where he got the dog tags." Weber translated the question. Richter answered. Disgust appeared on Weber's face as he listened. "Sir, he says he collected them from battlefields, from dead American soldiers over the last year. France, Belgium, Germany." Patton's jaw tightened. "Ask him why." Weber asked the question. Richter shrugged and replied casually. Weber's voice trembled as he translated. "He says they are proof of his kills. He says each tag belongs to an American soldier he personally killed." The entire processing area fell silent. American soldiers within hearing distance stopped what they were doing. All eyes turned toward Richter and the necklace. Patton spoke in a low voice. 50 tags. He claims he personally killed 50 American soldiers." "Yes, sir. And he wears them as trophies." "Yes, sir." Patton looked again at the chain. He examined the names. Even from where he stood, some were visible. PVT Michael Johnson, Todd Slife, Robert Williams, SGT Thomas Anderson, American boys, someone's son, someone's brother, someone's husband, now reduced to pieces of metal hanging around a killer's neck. Patton finally spoke. "Lieutenant Harper, I want every dog tag removed from that necklace. I want each one cataloged. I want every name recorded. And I want letters sent to the families." "Yes, sir." "Private Weber, tell Richter he is going to remove that necklace immediately and hand it to me." Weber translated the order. Richter smiled and replied in German. Weber paused. "What did he say?" Patton asked. "Sir, he refused," Weber answered. "He said the tags belonged to him. He says he earned them and intends to keep them." The silence grew even heavier. Every American nearby was watching, waiting for Patton's reaction. Patton stepped forward. Only 3 foot separated the 2 men. "Private Weber, translate exactly what I say, word for word." "Yes, sir." Patton spoke with measured precision, never taking his eyes off Richter. "You are a prisoner of war. You possess no rights, no privileges, and no personal property. Everything on your person now belongs to the United States Army, including that necklace." Weber translated. The smile on Richter's face began to fade. Patton continued. "Those dog tags are not yours. They belong to the families of the men you killed. Every one of them will be returned home." The words were translated. Richter's expression hardened. "You may remove that necklace yourself, or my men will remove it for you. You have 5 seconds to choose." Weber repeated the message. Richter remained motionless, defiant. Patton began counting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He then nodded toward Captain Mitchell. Mitchell and 2 military policemen stepped forward. They seized Richter. He fought back and shouted in German, but he was heavily outnumbered. One military policeman grabbed the chain and pulled sharply. The necklace snapped. 50 dog tags spilled across the concrete. Metal struck the ground. Names scattered in every direction. American soldiers rushed forward and carefully gathered them, treating each tag as though they were collecting fragments of the fallen. Richter was now yelling continuously in German. He cursed. He struggled. He fought against the military policemen restraining him. Patton watched as the tags were recovered, one after another, each handled with care and respect. Then he looked back at Richter. "Private Weber, translate this." "Yes, sir." Patton raised his voice so the entire processing center could hear. "You wore those tags the way a trophy hunter displays animal heads. You treated American soldiers as prey, as objects to hunt and exhibit." Weber translated every word. Richter stopped struggling and listened. "But what you failed to understand is this. Every tag represents a human being. A man with a name, a family, a life. Not a trophy, not a number, a person." Patton paused briefly. "And you will answer for every single one." Weber delivered the translation. For the first time, Richter's confidence appeared shaken. A brief trace of uncertainty crossed his face. Patton turned toward Lieutenant Harper. "I want Richter separated from the other prisoners. Solitary confinement. No contact with anyone except interrogators." "Yes, sir." "I want a full investigation. I want to know whether his story is true. Did he actually kill these men, or did he simply gather tags from bodies? I want witnesses. I want evidence." "Sir, that could require weeks, maybe months." "I do not care how long it takes. Find out." "Yes, sir." Patton looked toward the collection of dog tags now resting on a table. 50 small pieces of metal. 50 lives. "I also want those tags treated with dignity. Well, they are not evidence. They are remains. They are the means by which families may learn what happened to their sons." Harper nodded. "Understood, sir." Patton then faced the assembled soldiers. American GIs who had witnessed everything. Men who had seen the necklace. Men who had heard Richter's claims. Patton spoke loudly enough for all of them. "Gentlemen, what you have witnessed today is why we are here. It is why we fight." That man treated American soldiers as hunting trophies. He wore their identities around his neck like ornaments. Patton pointed toward the dog tags on the table. "Those men are your brothers, your fellow soldiers. Every one of them left home to serve, to fight, and to fulfill their duty. And they died doing exactly that." The soldiers listened in silence. Some had tears in their eyes. Some of those men died in battle. A fair fight, soldier against soldier. That is war. That is expected. Patton's voice became harder. "But this is different. This is desecration. This is treating the dead as animals, as objects, and it will not be tolerated." He paused. "We will learn exactly what happened to every soldier whose name appears on those tags. We will provide answers to their families. We will give them closure, and we will ensure this man answers for what he has done." The soldiers nodded. Several were visibly emotional. "Carry on," Patton said. The processing center gradually returned to normal operations. Yet the atmosphere had changed. The work continued in silence, with a far more somber mood than before. Richter was transferred to solitary confinement while investigators began examining his case. The 50 dog tags received careful handling and documentation. Lieutenant Harper spent many hours recording every detail. Each name, each service number, every piece of information attached to the tags. Then, the investigation truly began. Army investigators questioned Richter repeatedly over the course of several weeks. His account never changed. He insisted that he had personally killed all 50 soldiers during combat. Investigators looked deeper. They compared dates. They checked locations. They reviewed unit movements and battlefield records. What they uncovered was even more disturbing. Of the 50 dog tags, only 12 belonged to soldiers who died during direct combat. The remaining 38 came from entirely different circumstances. 7 belonged to soldiers killed while surrendering. 11 came from wounded servicemen shot inside field hospitals. 9 belonged to prisoners of war executed after capture. The final 11 cases could not be conclusively determined. Richter had not been collecting battlefield souvenirs. He had been carrying evidence connected to war crimes. The findings moved upward through military channels. The report reached war crimes prosecutors and the International Tribunal then being organized. Klaus Richter was formally charged with 52 counts of war crimes. The 50 deaths represented by the dog tags were included, along with 2 additional murders discovered during the investigation. His trial was held in 1946. Inside the courtroom, the dog tags were displayed as evidence. Each tag stood for a victim. Families received notification letters. The correspondence explained what investigators had discovered and what the findings meant. For some families, the information finally brought closure. They had spent months without knowing the fate of their sons. Now they had answers. For others, the truth brought additional pain. They learned their sons had not fallen in combat. They had been murdered. Richter was convicted on 47 counts. 3 accusations could not be proven beyond reasonable doubt. He received a death sentence. The execution was carried out in 1947. 2 years had passed since Patton first saw the necklace. According to official records, Richter's final words were spoken in German. He showed no remorse. He continued to insist that he had merely performed his duty. Eventually, many of the dog tags were returned to relatives who requested them. Others remained preserved within military archives. One tag belonged to Private First Class David Murphy of Boston. He was 22 years old. In 1946, his mother received the tag together with a letter explaining how it had been recovered. Later, she spoke to a newspaper reporter. "For months, we had no idea what happened to David," she said. "The Army listed him as missing, possibly dead. There was no body, no confirmation, only uncertainty." She held the dog tag while speaking. "When this was returned to us, we finally knew he was gone. It hurt, but at least we knew. We could mourn properly. We could say goodbye." She paused before continuing. The letter explained that General Patton personally ensured these tags were returned home. It said he stood up for our boys even after they were gone. That means something. Patton never discussed the incident publicly. The story did not appear in his memoirs. It was absent from his official reports as well. But the soldiers who witnessed the event never forgot it. They shared the account with other units and other servicemen. The story spread. People spoke about the day Patton discovered a German prisoner wearing 50 American dog tags. They remembered his words. They remembered his actions. And they remembered how 50 families finally received answers, closure, and a connection to their sons, even if that connection came in the form of a small piece of metal. Years later, one of the military policemen who had seized Richter recounted the event to a historian. "I had seen General Patton angry before," he said. "I had heard him shout. I had seen him furious. But that day at the processing center was different." The veteran paused. He remained calm. He remained controlled. But underneath, you could feel the anger. Not only toward Richter, but toward everything Richter represented. The disrespect shown to the dead. The idea of treating soldiers as trophies. He reflected for a moment. What stayed with me most was what he said about those dog tags. He did not see them as evidence. He saw them as remains. He viewed them as pieces of the men who had died, and he treated them accordingly, with respect, with dignity. That was the moment I understood what kind of general he was. He fought for the living, and he fought for the dead as well. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect on the sacrifice of those who never returned home and the importance of honoring their memory. Share this story with others and continue preserving the history of those who served. Please leave your thoughts about this content in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.